All right. Welcome to the Rubin Observatory Project Community Workshop 2022. My name is Victor Kravendam. I am the construction project manager, and we have a whole bunch of stuff to get through in the next hour and 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started. It is really, I can't tell you how exceptional it is to be able to see everybody here and to see the engagement that everybody was interested in this workshop and coming together, even in the times that we're in. And so before I start too far into this, I do want to remind everybody of the Code of Conduct. Everybody signed it. I would encourage you to go look at it. This is particularly interesting times, and how we conduct ourselves is particularly important. And so I beg you to pay attention to that and consider how you are coming across to your fellow colleagues. In addition, consistent with COVID, we are also trying really hard to make this as safe a meeting for everybody as possible and as comfortable as possible. So if you didn't see the green, yellow, red stickers that were available at the registration desk to indicate to your colleagues your comfort level, please make sure you get one of those stickers on your badge so that we can go through the whole meeting and you can be as comfortable as possible. I think everybody understands how to wash their hands, and there's sanitizing stations all over, and we'll just continue to treat each other as good as we can, and we'll get through this in-person meeting. So the last thing I wanted to make sure, or another thing I wanted to make sure of, is if you're not familiar with Arizona at this time of year, you should be, because it's all real. It's blazing hot out there. At this time of year, it's also kind of damp and moist. We do get thunder showers, so you do have to worry about lightning. It does rain, and when it does, it rains hard, so you do have to worry about flooding. And so please pay attention. And one of the best things you can do is, besides paying attention, is drink a lot of water. And so please do that, and that headache that you might get otherwise will be avoided. And then finally, the main thing to worry about indoors around here is fire safety. This room is pretty obvious. There's exit signs. You know where you came in. But I'll just implore you to think about whichever room you're in this conference, that you think about what the exit strategy is. Every room is different. Where you're going to be is different. Decor looks a lot the same. So pay a little attention to that and just make sure you know what the right strategy is for getting out. Some just basic reminders. This is primarily an in-person meeting, but we are broadcasting the plenary room on Blue Jeans, and so there's lots of virtual participation. We welcome that, and we're just hoping that everybody online will adapt proper protocols and you keep yourself muted. Use the chat channel to make any communication, any questions. There's people watching that, and we'll get your questions in through that approach. And there's microphones over in each of the hallways, so that if there's questions when we get to that, that's the right way to do it. There's also Slack channels. Take a look at this presentation. There's various places and various Slack channels for the various information channels, whether it's help or commentary and so forth. So with that, let me introduce Željko Ivezić, our director for the last 6 months, and he's going to give us a little bit of an intro.
So good to see you all here. Welcome all. Welcome to our construction project members, to our operations team. Welcome to our science collaborations, to LSST Corporation, to our undergrad students who are showing us their great posters. And of course, dearest welcome goes to representatives of our funding agencies. Welcome. So this is our 12th workshop. Last two were on Zoom. We have more people than we anticipated. There are about 300 attendees in person. This is a great sign and bodes well for future meetings. I anticipate about 1,000 people 2 years from now when we will have our first images to show. Agenda is full. There are many overlapping special sessions, breakout sessions. There are lots of fun activities too, so let's hope this will be a great meeting after so many years that we were not together. I will start these few slides by saying big thank you to Steve. I know Steve is registered. I don't know if he actually appeared today. Steve, are you around? Okay, hopefully he'll show up by tomorrow. We have something special in our dinner tomorrow for Steve. Steve was the construction project director from the beginning to last December. So we owe a lot of Steve. He decided he would take position of dean at Berkeley, and so he left us a few months ago. But I'm especially thankful for his time in his new position that he invested to making transition between us smooth for the construction project. So because of some changes in this org chart caused by this, we made some new appointments. So we have 2 fantastic new deputy directors, Sandrine Thomas, who was and still is the project scientist for Telescope and Site. She's also now taking some deputy director duties on NSF side of the house. And Aaron Rudman from SLAC is deputy director for the DOE side of the house. And we also have new project scientist, Steve Ritz. We finally have project scientists with a good sense of humor. And we also have new deputy project scientist, Federica Bianco, who you probably know from her fantastic science collaborations work. And she will now be leading Science Survey Cadence Optimization Committee to completion of its recommendation for how exactly we will start the survey once we are ready to go on Sky. And Victor will tell you more in a few minutes about some changes to the organization of the project. I just highlight here the top box. So these people are running the project. We have 3 fantastic managers, Victor, and then Willow Moulin and Vincent Riot. And then they are supported on technical and scientific issues by Chuck Claver, system scientist. So project scientist and system scientist are very similar roles. Chuck is looking more inwards, and helps our project managers. Steve is looking more outwards towards science community, stakeholders, running project science team, etc. So a lot of work happened since the last summer, and you can read faster than I can talk, so I'm not going to read you every single bullet, but I'd like to point out a few exciting details. One is that US data facility at SLAC is ramping up, and we are actually doing observing from the summit in Chile. It is not the main telescope, of course. It's our auxiliary telescope that will be used for calibration. But that's important because we are exercising all the processes from software to people actually going there in person and observing from the summit. So this is a great step towards commissioning in its earnest when we have big telescope assembled, and then first light with ComCam and later with the big cam. So the progress over the last few years shows that it is highly likely that we will succeed. So Rubin Observatory will be operational, LSST survey will happen, it will start. You can ask when exactly it will start. And unfortunately, I don't know. And it's even worse. Nobody knows. So I cannot tell you when will it start. I can tell you forecast. The difference between forecast and what will actually happen is that nobody can predict future, and we are still subject to delays. As you know, we lost 2+ years due to COVID. And there was some unfortunate nonlinear coupling between COVID and external big contractors for DOME and TMA. So hopefully we will be done soon with external contractors. It will be just our team that will bring us to the end point. Of course, there are many reasons to think that these dates that you're looking at will slip. Just a few weeks ago, we lost 2 weeks due to snowstorm that nobody expected. God forbid, but maybe monkeypox will be another COVID that will shut us down. We don't know. Let's hope not. But nobody can claim with certainty that these dates will hold up. You should think of them as not earlier than in NASA speak. But we do understand it is hard to plan for proposals. It is hard to plan for your grad students whether they should start on their thesis with LSST or not, etc. So we do understand this. That's why we are going to update these dates every month automatically. And it's directly connected to our main project management tool. And I will single out just one date, this one in red, that's system first flight. That's when we expect to get first images with LSSTCam, and that is Valentine's of 24. That's why that big red heart is there. Below, you can see milestones for our operations team. I will not go into details. Operations team will have their session tomorrow, and they'll talk at length about these dates. So I will stop here, and I will invite my fantastic Deputy Director, Sandrine, to tell you a few words about workplace culture. Over the last few years, I think Rubin Observatory construction team became a much nicer place to work at because of Sandrine and her team and all their efforts. Please.
Great. I'm not sure I'm going to be as funny as Željko, but I'll try. So yeah, so as Željko mentioned, in the last, one other topic that we actually made a lot of progress on is the topic of IDEA, which is inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. I want to add that A to it. And one little correction from what Željko mentioned, it's not only the work of the project and the workplace culture advocates, but it's the work of many, many people in the community as well. So that's kind of the diagram that I show here. We have efforts coming from the Rubin Construction, Rubin Operation, and also all the science community, including the science collaborations, LSST Corporation. So this is really something that started as individual efforts, and in the last couple of years at least, we actually started to really collaborate and make sure that we're going into a same direction in terms of IDEA efforts. So I'm listing on the right some of the things that we've been doing. So first of all, we have the workplace culture advocates on the construction project, but also extended to the Rubin Observatory at large, and I'm going to talk about it in the next slide. We also have inclusions and diversity and inclusion embedded in our EPO program. That was mostly focused on data accessibility, but we're still focusing on how to make the data and accessible to a variety of people. The science collaborations have a DEI council, and each of the science collaboration actually have a DEI council themselves. And we're all collaborating now to stay connected and to make sure that we're actually going in the same directions. For example, the code of conduct that Victor mentioned at the beginning is very similar and works, is applicable both for the project and the community. The science collaboration also work on data accessibility and representation, and you're going to see in the plenary on Wednesday and also in a session on Thursday that they are working on, for example, sonification and 3D rendering, and they got a grant to do that. We are also all individually and together really trying to reach underserved institutions. So Melissa Graham and other in operation have really worked on the TP0, data preview 0, and then made sure that those data are also being sent and reachable to underserved institutions. And so the few sessions that I highlight on the bottom on Tuesday and Thursday, if you can, that'd be great to have you around. And then a few words on workplace culture advocates. We're about 5 of us now, and we are located in different places around the globe. Actually, we have represented in Chile and a few in the US. And what we are trying to, or we are actually active listener, and we help with any issues or conflict that people might have in a workplace. So we have direct connection to the directorate, more so now. And so this, we really try to listen and make sure the workplace is very welcoming and inclusive. And we really promote allyship as well. And the last box, what we've been doing in the last couple of years is really to promote more actively a kind, welcoming, and safe workplace by increasing communication, really working on diversity, recognizing and trying to offer stress management options. And then also in the last couple of months, we're really pushing in collaboration with also our Aura Noir Lab colleagues to make the kindness the norm in a workplace. So I listed here a link of, it's open to everyone, of a few ideas that you might want to follow to try to increase kindness in a workplace. And we also have a channel for that. Here is a reminder on our mission statement. Rubin Observatory mission is to build a well-understood system that will produce an unprecedented astronomical data set for... That was me. All right, so maybe you can read it, and then the part I will highlight is to make the data widely accessible to a diverse community of scientists and engage the public to explore the universe with us. So really, even in our mission, we really promote diversity and inclusion. And now I'm going to give the floor to Victor again. And my transition is that the construction progress is excellent. We have operation that's getting traction, and we have a really good community engagement. So let's make this a great week. All right.
All right. Thank you, Sandrine. Thank you, Željko. So it is absolutely impossible to give a comprehensive construction update in 35 minutes. And so really what this is intended to do is whet your appetite, and hopefully you'll see something, you'll read something, you'll hear me say something, whether it's right or wrong, but that you'll be engaged and you'll seek out some people on the project and you'll get some discussion going. So just to start with, to set the stage as a sort of a summary here, we are about 86% done based on budget for the NSF side of construction. The DOE, last year we would have told you that we were closing out the MIE project, and that happened, so they are 100% done with building the camera on that budget. But the DOE is also completely committed to staying with commissioning this observatory and then later on operating it. But that's just being done out of different funds that they call their commissioning funds. So the most important part for many of you is the comment that Željko made. What is our forecast completion? Right now, we predict that we will be done in June of 2024, and we still have some schedule contingency. We're working with the ops team and discussing the risks ahead of us and where we stand, and they are choosing to start operations or plan for starting of operations in October of 2024. So that sort of sets the stage, gives you a vision for where we are, and we're sort of seeing this as the last 2 years of construction. Budget and schedule remain tight. That's from a schedule standpoint, that's 3 to 4 months of schedule contingency. That's not a lot. We can lose that in a heartbeat, depending on what kind of a problem that we encounter. But from the budget side, we feel like we have a good contingency, and we're in a good place to bring this project to conclusion. And finally, technical margins are still available to us. We still predict to be doing better than our science requirements. So that's the good news, and I would love to spend the next 30 minutes telling you only about all the great stuff that's happened and only all the good stuff, because that's the things that we like to celebrate. But the fact is that we encounter challenges, and there continue to be risks that we face every single day. Any of them that you can name, I will tell you that we understood it and we are working it actively. The project is very engaged in our risk assessments and our risk mitigations, but we would love to hear from you if you think there's some other risks that we are possibly not addressing. One of the primary issues that we face as we go into the last 2 years is there's an incredible amount of work that didn't quite get finished. And the result of that is that the activities over the last 2 years get very compressed. We not only have to do the integration and commissioning that we said we were going to do and the verifications, but now we're also finishing up a lot of things. So you'll see some of that complexity come out. From a strictly critical path standpoint, the ones that stand out are the telescope mount still, the dome, and LSSTCam are all sort of vying for the thrill of being on the critical path. And so the last thing that I'll also say is as this last 2 years also starts to unfold, there continues to be challenges with staffing. People are looking at the end of the project. We're working with our construction team on their trajectories into operations, but there still are departures, and how we manage that transition to operations is something that we have to deal with and continues to be a risk. Željko mentioned some organizational changes. Let me just, he already talked about the center, top, and the middle 2 boxes. Let me just point out a couple of things going around the horn here for performance and safety on the far right. Just recently, our head of safety, Chuck Gessner, retired. He has been re-employed. We didn't let him get away that far, and so he's still a consultant to us, but very soon we'll be seeing some name changes there in the safety area. Let me bring you back down also to education and public outreach. Last year, we would have been talking about Amanda Bauer, who was starting to transition off of the construction project and into her role as the deputy for operations. That transition did happen last October, and Lauren Corliss stepped up and has taken the reins for what will be the last year of construction for EPO. So that's a change that happened, and was just great that Lauren would step up because we were a year away from being done, and that team is in good strides, and so we're looking forward to finishing that up with Lauren. And then all the way over on the left, there is project administration box. It does not currently include Daniel Calabrese. Daniel is here somewhere. He is back on the project. He went and did a stint with our contracts department for Aura, and now he's back on project, and so that's also a change that doesn't actually show yet, but I thought was worth mentioning. Now, the big change that is to be highlighted here is the center 3 boxes that I'll focus on in this slide. The system integration and commissioning activities started early work years ago on the project. We recognized that 2 years was going to be a really short amount of time to integrate and commission this facility, and so we started to actively work with the team led by Chuck Claver and several others to start doing as much of that work as we could as early as we could. Now that we're getting very close to the end and the activity level is really ramping up, we saw the opportunity to enhance the structure by really expanding what was existing there for sitcom, is what we would have called it previously. And so now we have 3 new groups and 6 new people that have already been part of the project, or 4 of them were already part of the project, and are now being invited into the key leadership of the project, just so that we in the project office have a better connection with that level of the project and the leadership in the verification and validation group, which is Austin Roberts. Actually, it's not listed here. I'll go back one. Austin Roberts and Keith Bechtel in that box. Kevin Reel has taken on the observatory scientist position, and we're looking for a manager to work with him for system integration. And system commissioning, Robert Lupton, who's here somewhere, has taken on leadership there, and we're looking for a manager to work with him. And so that's the biggest changes to the key leadership part of the project. And of course, there are ripple down issues that as we promote people into these new leadership spots, we need there to be backfilled. And so but that can be dealt with in the individual areas. So I love to take the opportunity to pain or to cause pain on an audience and show you nice earned value metrics and lots of good project management graphics. But I can tell you, even from my standpoint, that is a little bit difficult at this point. And so what I chose to do instead is to just give you the bigger picture of where we stand and what our budget projection is. You might have remembered that the NSF part of the project used to be at a total project cost of $473 million. And if you look at the graphic on the right, you can see that we have already submitted 5 supplemental funding requests. 4 of those are for COVID-related issues. 1 of those is for security requirements issues. And we're already projecting that there's an SFR 6. And so, as Željko pointed out, the pain is not over. And we expect there to be additional impacts to our budget. The DOE MIE project is closed out at $165.3 million. But again, as I've mentioned previously, the commissioning activity does continue with the DOE, and they are just shy of $50 million in that budget. And then something that has, if you've been with the project a long time, you will recall that a really key part of the early days of what that was then LSST was the private funding that was raised to really move the project along in some really early phases, to do things like buy a primary mirror and start site preparations and to buy a secondary mirror blank and so forth. And so that was priced out at about $40 million. So there's the numbers. You can do the math. I didn't do the math because the numbers are changing a little bit and will change, and so I didn't think that showing up some global number right now at this point in time was worth it. This is a really colorful graph, and there's sort of 3 points that I'll make out of it. This has existed for a while. You can see sort of this interesting artwork in the middle, which is basically showing that the various parts of the project suffered COVID-related issues differently, from slowdowns to stopping and so forth. And so that just gives you that sense. But the takeaway messages here are to see just how many of our subsystems continue into this next phase, into this last phase, which gets to this point that I was making about how all the work is compressing. And so that's one of the takeaway messages. The other one is in the small green box or the teal box off to the right, which is that same forecast finish, which is sometimes called it is our forecast finish. The late finish is where we're now predicting is when operations will start, and that's October of 2024, and those are the same dates that I've given you previously. The last comment that I'll make then is to show you the very last line, which is our work with the operations team to start showing their key activities as well. And so you saw it on Željko's slide, which is repeated in a moment. But we are working hand in hand with the operations team to make sure that our trajectory, our milestones are consistent with their ramping up and their milestones. And so here's just an image to better describe and to sort of put a little bit more flesh on this issue of the number of activities that are going on. This is turned into the chart of choice for our system integration team and the technical team working on the summit to really understand all the activities that are going on. This is not a replacement for our true schedule, but it is an interesting graphic that helps with lots of the conversations. And I'll just point to the top 2 lines that don't have boxes. Those are the telescope completion and the dome completion. Those were never supposed to be intertwined with these other activities, but they are. And that just adds a complexity to the summit that we're dealing with constantly. And I really appreciate that everybody is working through that complication. Another item there that was never intended is the big red box, the first one on the top left, which is refrigeration line replacement. And that was an issue with the existing refrigeration lines on the telescope that all had to be replaced. And so that was an emergent issue that is also now upon us. That is just takes up time, resources, etc., at the same moment that we were planning on doing regular system integration. So I didn't repeat this slide, or didn't repeat the data in the slide. I just repeated the slide. This is exactly the same heartfelt slide that Željko put up for his system first light on Valentine's Day. But I just wanted to show you those dates again, and to show you that they are consistent with those graphics to the level that those graphics actually show you that detail. So let me jump into a little bit of the technical progress. Again, I'm not going to go through every word on every one of these slides. There's no way that I can get through all those, so these are really just teasers. But the data management team, who just had their all hands earlier this morning, have really made excellent progress with the science pipelines. That is, of course, one of the mainstays and one of the major areas of their development work. And probably the best thing for me to highlight is the second bullet, that it is those actual pipelines that are in use for DP 0.1 and DP 0.2. And so they are in use. We are learning from how they're working, and we are using that experience in the whole development process. The next one I will point out is the brokers. We had chosen 7 community brokers sometime last year, and that work is, by all reports, going along, moving forward. We're connected, and we're really happy that development can continue hand in hand with actual developers of those brokers. And so let me just jump down to the very bottom then, which is to point out that on Wednesday, there is a session that is going to focus on the science pipelines. And if any of this information is interesting to you, then I would invite you into that session. I left this slide in because I just love the picture. Certainly the PSF estimation that we do is key to the science mission of Rubin and the LSST survey. Those improvements continue, and hopefully you also like to see that picture and you're wondering what all the fine print is and what it all means. And that way you'll be invited to go find either Leanne or Will or Isra or any of the DM team that will happily walk you through how that PSF estimation is improving. One of the other key requirements for the data management system is our 60 seconds to process for alerts. And that activity is also in making good progress this past year. They actually did a sprint to look at the timing of that pipeline, and I believe they cut it in half, I think it was on the slide here, in the amount of time that it takes, and that was on the existing system at NCSA. This may be a good opportunity to say that we are and have been projecting for the community and the whole project, that we're transitioning our data facility from NCSA, which is basically shutting down in the next month or two, and transitioning to an online interim data facility as we then move over to the main U.S. data facility at SLAC. And so back to pipeline optimization, this is just step one, and the effort continues. So let me jump to the camera. Camera integration is really looking quite splendid. I was at SLAC last week and was able to witness and see the entire camera assembled. And here's some images showing, well, I guess it wasn't completely assembled, but it really looked good. But here in the images, you can see the filter exchange mechanism as it was integrated into the system. The cryostat mated with the utility trunk is in the middle picture. Top right, you see all of the filters are delivered and nicely stored, and ready for integration or to put into the camera. And then L1, L2, this is a picture from just last week, was unboxed and is ready next week when members of the camera team that are here this week can get back and do that trial integration. With the camera well enough assembled in the past year, they were able to get quite a bit of the electro-optical testing done, and I can report that the gains and the noise of the sensors all met specification, and we did a review of that early in June to verify that we were happy with where the performance lies with that. Oh, that's rich. My ringer is never on. So the camera is looking good. Reviews and measurements are being taken, and measurements will continue to be taken, but this was the first of the electro-optical testing. This is a great image looking at the front of the camera, and this is just to see the focal plane. And as exceptional and exquisite as that focal plane is, what maybe it strikes you, it struck me immediately was why the colors. Why does it look so different? That is how our eyes perceive the various coatings on those sensors. The main color differences from the two different vendors. Rest assured that the performance at the electro-optical level is to specification and will be exquisite to perform the science. The effort there has also not gone exactly according to plan with the camera. Last year, we probably would have reported to you that we were starting to work with the camera refrigeration system. You'll recall that there's a cold system and a cryo system. Well, the cold system was not behaving very well, continued to be unreliable. And so the project made a decision this past year to switch to an alternate that had also been conceived and and some preliminary work had been done, but this past year we had decided we were going to make the switch, and so a team headed by Martin Nordby from the camera team have really just pushed through and gotten this new design in place and worked with the telescope team, because this is now vacuum jacketed lines, not small stainless steel lines. This is a major change, and it took a lot of effort from the camera team, the telescope team, with Doug Neal leading the way, and many people on the project to make sure that we could get this system up to a design level and to a maturity level so that we could start building this and get it integrated with the entire facility. So that saw a design review last week, which was very successful and really highlighted the great work that's been going on there. So last year we told you that we were able to assemble the telescope during the COVID months. And what you see on these videos, I don't know why the right one is not working, but the left one, it is. The left one is a time lapse of during the integration of the telescope. The one on the right was just a month or so ago, which was actually under computer control. That was real time, and so that is just to give you a quick example. I'm not going to rerun that of the level of completion of that telescope, and it is looking very good and appears to be meeting all the specifications, and we have a group of people going down in September to make sure that we can run the verification of that whole system. I would also say that that effort has also not been without a few other complications. The one of them is the timing. The telescope vendor is not done yet, and we needed to get going. And so the series of images on the top left is us basically demanding that we had to start doing some integration testing. We had to start testing our systems for how do we take the camera out. And although that was a requirement on the telescope vendor, they wouldn't have done it as soon as we asked them to do it. And it's a good thing, because we recognized that there was an improvement necessary on that lifting fixture. But there's some fun images there to just show you the sequence of pulling the camera. That is the dummy camera, that's the yellow, the surrogate mass. But that was really a good thing to do as early as possible, and proved to be very useful. The other thing that I mentioned just briefly that we hadn't planned on was to replace all of the stainless steel refrigeration lines. The cold system and the cryo system both needed many of those stainless steel lines. The cryo system remains and still needs them, and so we had to replace them all. And so there was an effort that's been going on for the last 9 months to replace a lot of line on the telescope. Also now it has to be done while they're still finishing up their other work. The dome has been a highlight for way too many years. I wish that it was not, and we could have showed you these pictures a year ago. But the fact is that the progress has continued. There is now a nice shiny shell, which is the final look of the dome. When it's all said and done, even those louvers will be shiny as well. But the point is that it is at least very weather tight at this point. And we're really happy that that's starting to get into the next phase, which is how to control it, how to manage it. And we need it under control for us to be able to do the TMA, the telescope mount testing, in September. Also, not without some challenges, not specifically to the dome, but the facility itself. Željko mentioned that just last month we lost a couple of weeks to a once-in-a-decade kind of level of storm. and you can see in this video just how much snow there was. And that meant that there was a couple of weeks of no access to the site. That means all that snow had to be removed, and we were not helped by frozen pipes and generators that stopped working, and the list goes on. But the good news is that we're learning what works and what doesn't, and how robust the facility is, so that by the time we get to running the survey, we expect to have a well performing and robust system in place. IT has also been making some great progress on the summit and throughout. And what's highlighted here was the completion of the fiber line for what we'll call the last mile. The long haul networks have been in place to NCSA for a while, but we had never actually extended the fibers from the computer room on the summit all the way up to the top end of the telescope. And that was finally completed in the last couple of months, and that work has gone well. The experience with the whole system has also been good. We've learned where it goes down and when it goes down and how to recover it. And so all those things are things that we like to learn now while we're in commissioning and before we get to the final operations. There's test stands going in place, and that will also be helpful in the various locations. And then finally, I'll say that one of those lines in the chart on budget was a supplemental funding request for new requirements for data security and the network. And we have those requirements, we have the funding, and now the IT and DM teams are moving forward with making those changes. Željko already highlighted that one of the really helpful parts of doing early commissioning was the auxiliary telescope that you see here on the far right. In the images of the overall facility, it's the small dome that you often see off to the side on a little separate hill. But that telescope has proven to be very, very valuable in practicing and commissioning any number of things, not just from how to run Auxtel itself, but how we process operations, how we run the facility at night, how we get data off the summit, what works well, what doesn't work well, what needs to be improved. And then even not just from the qualitative standpoint, but also from the quantitative standpoint. So we've gotten that operations good enough so that we can actually focus on doing a sort of a scientific run where we actually take data to do measurements on how well the pipelines are working. And so there's a lot of really good work going on there. And in fact, I will say it's going so well and they're getting so good at it that even I could be the second person to help run it, which really just meant that I was there doing other work, but that's okay. Craig was the one doing all the real work. So integration on the summit, I think it's pretty clear. These pictures, I think, were already in place last year, but it's you'll see, just as a reminder, if you look at the image on the bottom right, at the top left of that image, you'll see that's the secondary mirror that is assembled, and golly, jeez, and the primary mirror is off on the top right of that that image, and then the bottom left is the integrating structure with the commissioning camera, and all of that black structure will eventually be the camera. And if I just focus on that, what you see here in a cutout is that whole structure, and you can see the various elements inside of it. That's to show you that ComCam is in there, and the image on the right is to show you that ComCam is functional. And that it is generating data that we have used in tests from the facility. And so that's what that looks like on the outside in a bit of a close-up. Also buried inside that system is the refrigeration pathfinder. That is one of the main reasons for us to get that system up on the telescope as soon as possible, because the cryo system, that's part of the camera. We have some real testing to do with its refrigeration systems, with the lines that we've just put in, with cleaning those lines, looking at operations, testing that system when it goes through various elevation angles, etc. And so we're really looking forward to getting that whole system, that whole unit onto the telescope to continue this part of the commissioning activities. I'll show you again the picture of what we call level 3, which is all those systems living together. One of the other aspects that has been going on a very regular basis is software testing, which is all the control software that has to work with all of these systems is being tested on a routine basis. What they call system spread testing, and is going on with the actual hardware in play, so that we can really learn how that interaction goes and how well everything from software to hardware and the combinations are working together. Let me move into a couple of the sort of system engineering kinds of activities, and that has to do a lot with verification status at this point. This is just to show you the kinds of levels of things that we're tracking. I won't talk to these very specifically, but it does show you that part of not just doing integration and doing commissioning, we're also trying to test as much stuff as we can as we go. This is here purely for reference for the next 2 slides, which is to also indicate to you that what we're also trying to do is not just verify the various requirements, but we're also trying to do and keep up to date our predicted performance. And one aspect of that is to maintain measurements of all of the elements that feed into our image quality budget. So that's that graphic. And we're also taking as-built information from the CCDs and as-built information from and as measured from the actual filters, and combining all of that into the data sets that allow us to predict how well we think we're doing. And then this is just another way to look at it. If you look at the sort of multidimensional space of how well LSST, or how well Rubin Observatory will be able to perform LSST, you see sort of different levels of the requirement, the goal requirement, and the minimum requirement. And what we want to be is in the green, and you can see a red star for where the design is supposed to be. We currently forecast that we're doing better than that, for the white dot on the far right. Right and low is better. So lastly, let me mention a couple of things about EPO again. The Education Public Outreach program has built us a new website. They have put together an incredible formal education program that is not just assembled, but has been tested with teachers that have given them feedback to help with the final stages of that development. There's lots of really good 3D visualizations to help with education on various topics related to the science of Rubin. There is connections to citizen science tools. There's lots of multimedia assets that are being assembled, all in an effort to make sure that the EPO data center and the website is rich with information to make sure that we really engage as well as possible with the community on all the things that Rubin can provide. And so this is a lot of details on, or not a lot, but there's several of the key milestones for the EPO plan. But really the only reason why I wanted to show you this again is that this October is our planned completion of the EPO program under construction. And so they will then transition into the operations and be reporting to Bob Blum as the operations director for Rubin Observatory. And so we are seeing the completion of the Education and Public Outreach program under construction, and they've got a lot of things coming together with that completion and with that launch. And I will point, I think I had a pointer on the previous chart for Lauren, who's going to do a presentation on Thursday, I believe, at the as a plenary to show you the launch of that product. And so finally, from a construction update standpoint, let me just talk briefly about safety. We have had accidents, and we have had some incidents in the past year. I hate to qualify any of them because any accident or incident is one too many, but I can say that none of them were serious, but all of them were good reminders that we are only moments away from something that could have been more damaging. And so the safety team is well aware and have been working extremely hard on continuing training, continuing communications, and continuing to improve processes, and particularly because we see many more people coming to the summit. People from across the project that haven't normally been there. And so we have now industrial contractors that are very used to the rigors of heavy work and big things that have been there for years. We now have our regular summit team. We have, as I mentioned, extended visitors and supporters from across the project. We're also starting to do night operations with Oxtel. So all of these things together make the environment on the summit very prone to issues, and something that we're paying a lot of attention to from a safety standpoint. Giovanni has a session tomorrow afternoon, which I encourage as many people that have availability to go to, because it's very much about the safety going forward during commissioning and how we get all of these people and subsystems to be working together. This is here just for reference as a reminder. If you are interested in how well the construction project is doing, we put out a 50-page monthly report every month. Those are available to you. There's highlights that come out in a digest every couple of weeks, and there's quarterly activities and presentations that we do that are also can be found and available to anybody on the project. Just a quick note that I did mention some of the leadership changes, but I wanted to also identify that we are constantly, seems like we're constantly always looking for the replacements and for new people and for various other things. In particular now with operations ramping up, you'll see some items there that are very operation specific. So take a look at our hiring page. Even if you, because you're already here, aren't looking for a job, maybe you know somebody else that you could refer. So finally, from a concluding set of remarks, I think that we continue to be building an awesome observatory. There's just no question about, if you see any of the images, even if you just look at the requirements and the objectives, this is going to be an awesome observatory, and we're going to do an awesome survey, and it's just going to be awesome. I could look for other words, but really, why bother? So, it was always going to be a challenge. We always knew that putting this thing together was going to be hard, and it is proving to be, but we are getting through it. We're getting through it one issue at a time. As each one of those emerges, the team is stepping up and dealing with them, and I'm really happy with how that's all progressing, even though now there's an awful lot of work going in parallel, which means that emergent issues happen in parallel, which means the team is being pressed into dealing with multiple issues at the same time. And so this is just my shout out to the team that is dealing with it, that I very much appreciate everybody's patience, everybody's ingenuity, and continued ingenuity in inventive ways to come up with solutions. And that is actually seeing this progress continue. And it is through that work that we will succeed. All right. That's a quick update on operation or on construction. And now for a few minutes, I'm going to sort of shift gears completely and talk about this week and logistics. And so first of all, I wanted to start right off by saying that if you've never put a meeting like this together, you may not appreciate just how much effort goes into it. And I want to put a shout out for our organizing committee, both for the program and for the local groups, and to inject the science and the community interest into it. These inputs are vital, and those people are key to making this a successful event. And so there's a bunch of names on there, and I just want to generally give them all a shout out for all of the great work and appreciation for that work and for your interest in making this a really great week. Okay, I think we basically talked a little bit at the beginning about virtual access. This room is available for participating virtually, and 2 others. And so if you have a session in Dove Mountain Ballroom or in Tortolita A, those are the only places that are really set up to be able to be working remotely. And so I apologize in advance that if any of the other sessions, if there are people that are virtual and really wanted to participate in those, there was just only so much we could do in getting the entire conference to be set up for that level of participation. So constructive feedback can go to those organizing committees and through all those channels. If you have a complaint, please come and see me, because it's not on them. And here's one of those other, if you've got help, especially if you've got a session that you're doing, there's a helpline on the Slack channel. If you have dietary issues, needs, if you need anything to make your session as productive as possible outside of extra internet, please let us know. Anything else that you need, the team remains ready to help you out, and the help channel is there on Slack. Another comment we mentioned earlier right at the beginning about your COVID stickers for your level of engagement or your comfort level can be expressed in the green, yellow, red. We also have filming going on during the conference. If you prefer not to be on camera or prefer not to be memorialized in somebody else's professional camera, then there are red dots that you can gather from one of the easels next to the registration desk. And please feel free to put one of those dots on your badge, and those people with cameras will respect that, and you will not be in that film. There are some responsibilities if you have a session, not just from the bring your own laptop and your own connection devices and so forth. There is a ready room that you can go practice all those things and test those things. But we also are asking you to upload your agenda and any materials so that even people here will have access to those, can download them, can make their own notes, and see the material that you've prepared for that session, but also for people online. It'll make their experience much better to be able to see the materials that you've put together. And then lastly, the last day on Friday, we do like to hear. We like to have everybody do an outbrief on how your session went, any big messages that you'd like to give everybody on anything you discovered, anything you learned, anything you feel was a good outcome or a bad outcome. But that's an opportunity for us to hear back from you. In particular, since there's multiple sessions, people would very much like to hear how things went. And you have then another opportunity to invite people to look at the materials that you put onto the agenda for that topic. Point out that Erin Carlson is here and has hours where she will be at the desk. Erin is our travel coordinator for the Rubin project, and she's available and ready to help you out with Rubin-related travel, whether it's because you're here and have issues or you have other travel planned. Please go ahead and see her to deal with any of those issues. We also have a poster session today, and we're going to hear in just a few minutes from the undergraduate students that have started to do some work, and they're going to give a quick pitch, and then they're going to have some posters up out in the hallway. If you go out, exit left, I believe. And then there's other sessions throughout the week where there are going to be posters and people to talk to about them. And so we really encourage you to look at not just the sessions, but also in those posters that are up every day. And then in addition to the formality of posters and sessions and so forth, we also have the Rubin Research Bites. And so you're also invited, if you have other research and other information that is worth sharing about what you're any studies or investigations or whatever work you're doing, I would love to hear from you. And so there's some links here on how you can contribute that and just make that make that known to more of your colleagues that are here. And then the next sets of slides are really just to highlight some things that are happening. I already mentioned the poster session today, right after this session. Hope you can stay around for that. Tomorrow, I'll start off by saying that I think from an operations standpoint, Bob Blum has a session which should also be extremely interesting to everybody in this at this workshop on what the plans are that are currently in place for the start of operations and the transition to it. But also group photo at 5:30. Call out the lightning stories. Those are always fun. come to the right after the plenary at 10 a.m. There's some lightning stories, and then we finish off the day with the conference reception at 6:30. Wednesday is an unconference, so that's I believe Wednesday afternoon. So that's always an interesting and hit with the group, and always uncovers some interesting topics to go research and dig into a little deeper. With people that are already in the meeting here. I mentioned Thursday's talk by Lauren, but Marcia is also going to be here, and I think the two of them are going to provide us with a great plenary talks. And so those keynotes are really going to be a highlight, and I really hope that everybody can get themselves up and have breakfast and come join us for those two excellent talks. And then Friday is the closeout. I hope that everyone that's had a session will have uploaded their information about just a summary of how well you did, and just a summary of what came out of your session. But also a couple of things to point out. The image on the bottom left is 12 years ago in the same facility, at the stairs that you go up when you go from registration up to the next level. We took that image, that picture, which was the all hands meeting was what it was called at the time. And it was it was at that meeting that we learned that we were the number one choice for the 2010 decadal survey, which was how we launched from an idea and a design and development project into a construction project a few years later. So that was a pretty important time, and it happened at this facility, and the 12-year anniversary of that is on Friday. There are also some daily themes just to keep it light and fun, so take a look at that and see how you can lighten the mood and actually contribute to some interesting and humorous information. And then finally, I hope everybody got some people think this is the most important part of the PCW. I know it's hard for us to imagine. You're not here to listen to our updates, but there's a lot of people that put a lot of work into getting those things designed, to getting these things ordered, to getting these things in bags, and have T-shirts and have name tags and have it all aligned so that you could walk in, register, and just get a nice bag. And so I hope you enjoy them. It is really something that we hope generates a level of interest with the whole team and the whole group, and it gets out there and just continues to show the Rubin Observatory and all of its glory. And again, thanks to the team for putting in the long hours to make that to get that logistics finished. Okay. We have 8 minutes on the formal schedule, so I'm 2 minutes over for a little bit of time for any questions, and I can promise time for questions. I can't promise that we'll have answers, but we'll see. Anyway, there is time for that. There are microphones in the hall, in the aisles. Rampal is looking at blue jeans, and so anybody online, comments and questions, now is an opportunity. I will be here all week, and so will most of the construction team, and so there's more time for any of those questions to be answered. Don't feel pressure. All right. I will invite the student contingency to start if you're ready. I don't know what you were gonna do, but in about 6 minutes, I was going to relinquish this podium for you if you wanted to start thinking about. You're already ready. All right, awesome. I was stalling to see if. All right. I say we get ahead of schedule.
control.
I think we're ready.
Okay, and just a few instructions to the students. Feel free to adjust the microphone when you come up to the right height, and feel free to take your mask off while you speak. Okay, great. So it's my pleasure to introduce half the students who are here this week supported by LSST Corporation. So in previous years, we had only undergraduates, about 18 or 20 in 2018 and 2019. This year, we have 12 undergraduates and 23 graduate students supported by the corporation. And we had a call for proposals, and there were proposals for 81 students to attend this. So there was actually quite a bit of competition to even make it to be supported. So this is a great sign for Rubin and LSST that there's such interest. This morning, the students enjoyed tours of the Mirror Lab and the Noir Lab machine shop. And so there are pictures of the two groups that we had separately at the Mirror Lab, and then this was the machine shop. And the students are going to present posters on their research projects related to Rubin and LSST in two groups. So one group after today's plenary in the hallway out there, and then after the Wednesday morning plenary. And today you're going to hear 30-second pitches from them, and from all the undergraduates and some of the graduate students as well. We tried to group them a little bit thematically, and then you'll have the opportunity to enjoy their posters out there and learn about their research. So I instructed them to practice for 30-second pitches. We have enough time that I'm going to tell them now, go at about 0.8 speed, okay? Because whenever we do 30-second pitches, we just like zoom right through it. So you can slow down a little bit so that people can then absorb what you're talking about. Don't add extra words, okay? Just slow down. Great. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start with Daniel.
We should have lined up by height. I'm Dan Polin. I work on sensor anomalies in the camera with Professor Tony Tyson. And at UC Davis, we have a facility called the LSST beam simulator, which mimics the optics of the Simonian telescope. And basically, we image on real CCDs that allow us to study the optics. So recently we've been studying the effect of crosstalk and nonlinear crosstalk caused by the LEOsats, low Earth orbit satellites. And so if you're interested in that or what we're doing at UC Davis, come over and ask your questions. So happy to answer.
Great. Okay, you can go down that way. Okay, Alina?
Hi, I'm Alina, and my work is with satellite dodging with the Rubin scheduler. So we know that LEO satellites are leaving streaks in pointings, and the question is, can we avoid satellite streaks in pointings with the Rubin scheduler? And if so, how well can we preserve survey depth and exposure time? So what we did is we add a wait term that basically rewards satellite avoidance. And what we figured out is that, yes, we can dodge satellites effectively with the Rubin scheduler, but the problem is that it really penalizes survey depth, which makes it kind of not worth it at the current stage.
And Javier, number one.
Hello, I'm Javier. I'm from Chile, and I'm working with Professor Franz Bauer for the LSST broker. We are using a sample of over 5,000 supernovae served by the Zwicky Transient Facility, and we're trying to find out if information, features from their host can help improve the classification for the brokers in preparation for the LSST era of observations. So if you're interested, you can come check out my poster.
Lena?
Hello, my name is Lana, and I'm an undergraduate student at MIT. This summer, I conducted research under the physics department at Washington University in St. Louis. And my research focuses on forecasting the constraining power of LSST data on the physics of inflation in the early universe. And my main outcome is implementing a scale-dependent galaxy bias caused by primordial non-Gaussianity in the desk bias challenge. So if you're interested in my model, please come chat with me on my poster. Thank you.
Andrew?
My name is Andrei. I'm an undergraduate student at Stanford, originally from Ukraine.
my project mostly addresses the problem of galaxy blending, which is the projection effect when the fluxes of galaxies overlap in the image. So the first project is focused on detecting the number of galaxies in the image. And the second project I did was focused on using an elliptical region convolutional neural network, ELLIPS-RCNN in short, to detect the galaxies and measure their shapes. If you're interested, please come see it in my poster. Thank you.
Okay. G.
Hello, everyone. I'm Biswajit Biswas. I'm a first-year PhD student at APC, and I'm working quite in line with the previous pitch that you had. So I'm also working on deep blending. I'm using deep neural network architectures to actually separate the galaxies which are overlapping along the line of sight. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your feedback and your use cases. So come see me during the poster session. Thank you.
Andressa?
Hello, my name is Andressa. I'm an undergrad from Brazil. My advisor is Luisa Costa, and our research question is about the photometric redshift uncertainties and its impact on the red sequence evolution of the wavelet Z photometric plus finder members. And we found that the results using data preview 0 magnitudes and the redshift photo Z is consistent with the true red sequence evolution from the simulation. So if you want to know more about that, please come to my poster. Thank you.
And Kevin?
Hello, my name is Kevin Espíndola. I'm from the Universidad de Valparaíso. My advisor is Amelia Valla, and my research addresses the impact of cadence and type of photometry on the irregular autoregressive feature. This feature works on alerts, and in my poster I show if it can work on higher cadence like the ones that the LSST will have. So if you want to see more, come by my poster. Thanks.
And Eric?
Hi, my name is Eric. I'm an undergraduate at Stanford, and I'm working under Dr. Aaron Rudman. The research question that I'm investigating is how the photon transfer curve depends on the brighter fatter effect for different combinations of means of pixels. So I'm using flat frames taken with the LSST camera, and I found that the exponential fit coefficients for the block mean variance are much larger than I expected, and I'm going to use the simulated flat frames for the LSST camera to further investigate this problem. If you have any comments or questions, please come to my poster. Thank you.
Jendaya?
Hello, my name is Jendaya Wells. I'm a junior at Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. I'm a music major and business management minor, and over the summer I worked with Dr. Bianco, Dr. Lim, and Riley Clark on the sonification of LSST data. Sonification is the use of sound to represent data which increases accessibility to the blind and vision impaired community and also can aid research and discovery. We worked on the mapping of LSST data properties such as flux and uncertainties to sound properties such as pitch and volume. If you come by my poster, you'll be able to hear the sonifications that we created. Thank you.
I think that's going to be a popular poster. And Theo?
Hello, my name is Theo Schutt. I'm a graduate student working at Stanford and SLAC with Aaron Rubin. And so what I broadly work on is characterization of the LSST camera, both through hardware, which you can see on the top, and also through software such as point spread function modeling. So if you're interested in that, please come see my poster.
And Nathan?
Hello, my name is Nathan. I'm an undergraduate student at Penn State University. I work in Dr. Neil Brandt's research group, and the research question I sought to address with my project is why do X-ray tidal disruption events, why is their host galaxy preference less enhanced for post-starburst galaxies? In recent years, tidal disruption events have been shown to prefer post-starburst galaxies, and for some reason this is less enhanced with X-ray tidal disruption events. And in seeking to address that question, I provide important a priori host galaxy information for X-ray tidal disruption events that will enable reliable selection from the millions of transients that LSST will discover.
Hi, I'm Fanzo. I'm a graduate student at Penn State, and I've been working on the multi-wavelength data preparations in the LSST deep drilling fields. And especially I fitted the spectral energy distributions for sources in the LSST deep drilling fields and provides catalogs for that. And the picture there shows an example for the spectral energy distribution fitting. And if you are interested, please drop by my poster. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barbara. I just finished my undergrad at Rutgers University, where I work with Erica Weiser. I use the 100 square degree dark energy camera imaging and narrowband survey, or ODIN, to study the evolution of Lyman alpha emitting galaxies in LSST deep drilling fields. We find that LAEs at higher redshifts appear to evolve into LAEs at lower redshifts and will be found today in dark matter halos that are slightly smaller, slightly less massive than the ones of the Milky Way. If you find any of that even remotely interesting, you should stop by my poster because I would love to talk your ear off about it.
Elise? Hey, my name is Claire Elise. I'm a graduate student at Stanford, and I've been investigating whether persistent weather conditions at the Rubin Observatory will impact spatial correlations in the PSF, and whether that in turn will impact bias in our cosmological measurements. I've written a software package which delivers realistic and correlated environmental input parameters to atmospheric PSF simulations. And these outputs are based on weather forecasts, local measurements, and empirical models. So I plan moving forward to use these simulations to address the question about cosmological bias. Thanks.
And Maya?
Hello, I'm Maya Doe. I'm an undergrad at Cal Poly Pomona University, and I'm working with Dr. Patricia Burkhardt on how PSF weather station predicts persistent anisotropic correlation in simulated point spread functions across the field of view. We find that PSF weather station generates more correlated PSF for some realization, but its general performance needs testing on a larger data set. So if you'd like to know more about these pretty plots, please visit me at my poster and let's chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tianqing Zhang. I'm a rising fifth-year graduate student at Carnegie Mellon, working with Rachel Manabam. My research focuses on weak lensing and point spread function, or PSF. So during the last two desk projects that I led, we found weak lensing systematic caused by PSF higher moments in one of our precursor data, HyperSupremeCam, or HSC, and also in the image simulation. And right now I'm working on incorporating our code into the DM science pipeline and studying modeling schemes in HSC Year 3 cosmic shear analysis. So I'll see you at the poster session today. Thank you.
Okay, so before we close, I just want to thank a number of staff members who really helped make this program come together, because as you saw, there are people, the students came from all over the world, okay, and managed to get here. And so Sherry, Aaron, Dana, Lyndon, Kathy, Ron, and others, okay, they know who they are. Great, so thank you very much. Great. So when you go out to the posters, so they're down the hallway there, and please go all the way to the end, okay? And some of you, and start at the other end rather than just the posters at the beginning, because they stretch all the way down. Thank you.